and welcome to Breakfast Extra. Or perhaps these days I should be careful how I say that. Let's watch this video.
Okay. Good morning, Tony.
Tony.
I said good morning, Tony.
Okay, no, you won't call me Tony. I'm not those people. You call me Miss Elumelu or Theory. You won't call me Tony or Chairman. That is, I don't subscribe to that kind of Oyibo life, okay? All right.
Good morning, Mr. Elumelu.
Thank
so my
you.
question is, how do you know if you are to keep going?
Good morning, Tony. 3 words. That's all it took to start a national conversation. At a recent UBA event, a young woman stood up to ask Tony Elumelu a question. She began, "Good morning, Tony." Mr. Elumelu corrected her. "Not Tony, Mr. Elumelu or TOE." She corrected herself, continued with her question, and that probably should have been the end of it. But this is Nigeria. We turned 3 words into a national debate. One side said, these Gen Z children have no respect. The other said, but Tony is literally his name. And I've been thinking about it. Because maybe this conversation isn't really about Tony Elumelu. Maybe it's about us. What exactly does respect sound like in Nigeria? Growing up, many of us understood respect through language. You didn't just say, yes. You said, yes, sir. Yes, ma. You didn't call your teacher by their first name. You didn't call your friends' parents by their first names. In some Nigerian homes, calling an older cousin by their first name could earn you one look that immediately reminded you that you have forgotten yourself. Titles matter here. Uncle, auntie, chief, doctor, pastor, professor, sir, ma. Sometimes we even call people mommy, daddy, who had absolutely nothing to do with bringing us into this world. That's Nigeria. Respect isn't always something you've expected to, you're expected to simply feel. You're expected to show it. But another generation has entered the workplace. A generation working remotely with bosses they've never physically met. A generation sending messages directly to CEOs. A generation exposed to workplaces where the managing director walks in and says, "Please don't call me sir, call me David." And suddenly, 2 cultures are meeting inside the same office. One says, respect the hierarchy. The other says, respect the person. And maybe those aren't always the same thing. But I can call you sir every morning and still disrespect your time, ignore your instructions, and do terrible work. And I can call you by your name while valuing your experience, listening to you, and treating you with dignity. So maybe respect is bigger than vocabulary, but vocabulary still matters, because if you're entering someone's organization and you're unsure how they prefer to be addressed, start formal. If they say, "Please call me Tony," fantastic. You've lost nothing. Here's where I think the conversation became unfair. She called him Tony. He told her how he preferred to be addressed, and she adjusted. She didn't argue. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't say, "But that's your name." She corrected herself and continued. That's the difference between getting respect wrong and being disrespectful. Those aren't the same thing. Sometimes 2 people simply walk into the same room carrying different definitions of what respect looks like. And once you've told the expectation in that room, respect means honoring it. She did instantly. So maybe the mistake was never really the story. Maybe our reaction to it was. But there's another part of this conversation that fascinates me. Why does familiarity so often travel down the hierarchy, while respect travels up? Think about it. A chairman can call a graduate trainee by her first name. Nobody finds that strange. But can the graduate trainee call the chairman by his name? Suddenly, national emergency. A 65-year-old executive can say, "Queen, come here." Perfectly normal. But if Queen responds, "Okay, Mazzino, ha!" Now everybody wants to hold a meeting. So perhaps we're not only discussing names, perhaps we're also discussing power. Who is allowed familiarity? Who must demonstrate difference? And where is the line between respecting hierarchy and worshiping it? Now, I don't think the answer is to throw away our culture. There is value in acknowledging elders, in recognizing experience. And young people should understand that confidence doesn't mean walking into every room behaving as though everybody there is your mate. Humility still matters, but respect cannot only travel upwards. Our leaders, bosses, and elders must demonstrate it too. You cannot demand "sir" from a junior employee while speaking to them without dignity. A title can acknowledge your position. It cannot manufacture character. So maybe both generations have something to learn. To younger people, read the room. When you're unsure, stand formal. There is nothing outdated about courtesy. And to the older generation, maybe every young person who doesn't say "sir" isn't disrespectful. Sometimes they simply learned a different professional language. Correct them, tell them your preference. Then look at what happens next. Because character is revealed not only in the mistake, but in the response to correction. And now there's another chapter, again, to this story. Following all the attention surrounding that matter, we were told that Mr. Elumelu has reportedly met and connected with the young woman again. And I think there's something important in that, because while the internet was busy deciding who was right, who was wrong, who was disrespectful, and what was apparently wrong with an entire generation, the two people actually, or allegedly involved, have moved forward. Maybe we should learn something from that too. We live in an age where one awkward moment can become your entire identity. One sentence, one video, one mistake like this, and suddenly strangers who have never met you know your character, your upbringing, your address, where you're from, who brought you up, apparently how your parents, paid your fees. But people are bigger than their worst, or simply their most misunderstood moments. Sometimes a mistake should become a lesson, not a life sentence. Because if someone gets something wrong, accept the correction and does better, what exactly are we still punishing them for? And perhaps that's the part of this story I like most. She adjusted, he reached out. They moved forward. Maybe social media should too. So perhaps the question isn't simply, should she have called him Tony? Maybe the better question is, who gets to define respect? Is it the person speaking, the person being addressed, our culture, or maybe it's a little bit of all three? Because someone can call you sir every day and have absolutely no respect for you, and someone can call you by your first name and hold you in the highest regard. So maybe "good morning, Tony" wasn't evidence that an entire generation had lost its values. Maybe it was simply a moment a young woman read the room differently. She was corrected, and she adjusted. And the man she addressed appears willing to move beyond it. And perhaps maturity isn't never making a mistake. Perhaps maturity is knowing how to correct one and having enough grace to let other people move beyond theirs. So where do we draw the line? Is respect in the title we use or in the way we treat each other? Maybe the answer is both. And on that note, good morning, Mr. Elumelu. I am Queen Celestine, and this is Breakfast Extra. And of course, I'm here with Mazino. Mazino, good morning. How are you?
How dare you? Who born you? Who formed you? Where
My
you from?
God.
It's Mr. Mazino to you.
Apologies.
Funny thing about my name is, as yours as well, I think in our line of work, it becomes a brand and you don't need a prefix with it.
Yes.
So I guess I wouldn't be offended if I was simply just called Mazino.
Or Maz for short.
Maz is a different thing. That's too familiar. So I wouldn't expect an intern to just call me, "Hey, Maz." But Mazino's fine. I'm okay with it. But
I heard something about this story. I have to come over and give you
oh,
that.
yeah. We'll talk plenty about it coming over there.
Awesome. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mrs., Mrs., Chiefs, barristers, everybody out there, and welcome to Breakfast Extra. It's a new week and nearly 100 days after the abduction of the Mussa school children. We begin with the parents who have placed their demands to the federal government. Then we will be moving to the extra special segment where we will be examining what the federal government amendment of the Mental Health Act means for us all. We'll also take our weekend warrior, Angelique Kidjo, by the way. Her story impacted and also has risen to the Hollywood standard, apparently. She's gotten to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That will be inside of our Creative Corner. Finally, on Focus Africa, we turn our attention to modern-day slavery and confront the exploitation in Africa. We've got hard truths, we've got real stories and moments of hope, all right here inside for Breakfast Extra. Let's get started. Thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday morning. First, let's get back to Queen and let's talk about this Mr., Mrs., titles, respect, this and that. First off, I would like to say, I don't think that it was a mistake. I think it was a moment. And I think that, like you said, she learned from it and adjusted real quick. One question to ask, what company policies do they have in certain companies? Like I've worked in so many, and it's okay to actually call people with a parallel or above you by their first name because of the industry you work in. So what exactly is the policy at the bank? If you take that and put it side by side, what happened, then you have your answer. Was it okay for her to have done it? Maybe yes, based on company policy. I also hear that that's been abolished. I'm not sure yet, unconfirmed, I'm not sure yet, but that it's been abolished, that company policy where you can refer to your bosses by their first name. If that has happened, then it's a regression because the world is moving this way. We're going back that way.
Well,
My take.
Well, to be fair, I think you're right. But at the same time, even though those things are there, it's like, for example, in companies, you would not call your chairman by name. You just say chairman, sir.
Yes,
out
exactly.
Of respect. Then the chairman will say, Mazino, no, call me.
Even whatever he asks you to call him,
you cannot
you
even
add
fit.
Mr. on top.
You know, I have people who are like, you know, older than me. They're like family friends. You see this mommy and daddy saying, we started calling them that. It's just out of respect. They will say, call my name. You now put sir. Auntie this, big sis, big bros, you know.
It's a culture.
It's always, exactly. I think it's just how we grew up. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that this generation don't understand it. And, well,
maybe they need to be reminded. Maybe that's the one instance we actually needed. What was that thing about the 500,000 naira gift?
Yes, I saw a post, and I'm still trying to understand how somebody somewhere said he's going to give her 500,000, a trip to, I think, Delta State, a 5-star hotel, and I'm wondering, was she abused? Ambassador?
Yes, she was.
I'm trying to understand.
Yes, she was.
Social
She wasn't
media.
abused by Tony Elumelu, no. Mr. Tony Elumelu, she was abused by the rest of Nigeria. I mean, to be put on such a stage and have everybody talk about what had just happened and you, the poster girl, for this disrespectful mannerism, it has its effect on you mentally. So, yes, maybe she does need to be pampered. If I had the means, I'd invite her over, would give her a tour, would talk to her, would tell her, hey, it's all right. Because, I mean, hey, you have to think about it. The entire world talk. Have you ever been put on a world stage for something negative? It has its effects and they're not positive. So if someone wants to pamper her, please, congratulations, go ahead and do. I hope big things for her because she's helped an entire generation learn something. So give her some, you know, kudos or, you know, at least. There's something else we'll talk about during the course of today's show that I think we can pull this into and have a broader conversation about it. But that will be somewhere inside of the middle of the show where we talk about laws being repealed by the Nigerian Constitution. We'll talk about that. I don't want to be specific just yet. So stick around and you'll find out what exactly it is because it's going to be interesting. But before then,
you'll find out.
We are going to do the dailies now, aren't we?
Yes.
We'll be back. We'll bring you the daily. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now we're moving straight into the dailies, and I think we'll start with the first paper, The Nation. Mazina, why are you dancing?
I'm happy because I'm happy.
Yay! Okay. Right at the center, 2027 storm in opposition camp ahead a single candidate summit. Interesting. Fresh war of words erupt between Atiku Obi supporters. Rival camps trade accusations, insult on social media. This is after signing peace accord. They are now trading insults on social media.
Peace accord is nothing, quite frankly. It's not enforceable. There's no agency that is responsible with making sure that it's followed through.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Quite frankly, it's really just a piece of paper. Pieces of paper signed by numerous people.
Sad. Kogi probes death of 4 family members. Dog after Amala meal. So Kogi probes death of 4 family members and their dog, I believe, after eating Amala. You find out on page 2. I have nothing to say. Scores feared killed, abducted in Lakurawa terrorist attack on Niger communities. Another one. This is really, really
I would
sad.
like to know where exactly in Niger State. So maybe I'll be taking a look at that paper.
Lakurawa. Party chairman slums dies at reconciliation meeting.
So sorry. Unfortunate.
Really sad.
Yeah. Are you done with the top?
No, right at the top, Tinubu heads APC 2027 campaign. Council Yari named the DG of that campaign. Shatima Yewata is the vice chairman and Uzodima is the secretary. And last but not the least, how fake agency plan to swindle foreign firms after swindling.
Exhibitors charge $8,800 per 22 square meter.
Interesting.
So they're ripping off. Oh my God! It's like we're ripping off everybody here, there, on the side, and all.
What
the
people
photo
do we
story,
have?
however, I found that very interesting. That's a picture of the governor of Delta State, Owerveri.
Yes.
Take a look at that. Can we put that back? Owerveri there, and the Olu of Ibad, the Olu of Warri.
Yes.
This happened
the homecoming.
through Friday. Yeah, the homecoming, the anniversary of the homecoming through Friday, and I think yesterday was a very big ceremony. There's also there. I think who's that? Is that? I'm not.
Yes, that is Governor Sanwo-Olu.
That's Sanwo-Olu. Oh,
yes.
Grand. That's grand. A producer had something very spicy to say about his presence there. I don't know, Raji, would you like me to come in? No, I won't.
Well, maybe the next homecoming breakfast extra will be there and reporting live.
Perhaps. Let's move on now, however. We're moving on to our next daily. The Guardian newspaper, 2027 polls why politicians should embrace issue-based campaign. That's not what they're doing. Under that headline, you see the same instance there. That's the coronation ceremony there with the Olu of Ibadan and other monarchs. At the top of the Guardian newspaper, electoral justice will ultimately drive peaceful elections in Nigeria. And of course, how leadership, innovation, trust can make Nigerian universities resilient. I say privatize. Food security, Afenifere seeks robust military action to curb banditry in Southwest, boost farming. Military agriculture, I thought they were supposed to help secure Nigerians, especially outside the Nigerian border. This should be within the purview of the Nigerian police or other security agencies that have been built for this form of security, is my take. 2027, INEC to conduct mock accreditation in November. Talked about this yesterday, fleetingly, but I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be the true test. But the stakes will not be there. That's the only ingredient that I think will be missing that might not affect the eventual outcome for 2027 elections. But let's see how Amuputan does. What was your score for the conduct of the elections? Do you have a score?
No.
You didn't? I gave it an 85.
You did?
On the part of INEC, on the fact that there was no security breach or anything absolutely that could disrupt the election. So I did leave it at an 85. 85, I'd say. I was very impressed. I was going to talk about that yesterday on the show until we had the fake agency issue. Now, Ogoni leaders fault resumption of oil exploration amid dialogue and power sector woes. Experts propose cassava affluence to energy solutions. U.S. court permits FBI to review Tinubu drug case files. Now, I'm going to go back and take a look at the dates on this. Okay, August 22nd and 23rd, 2025 for the Guardian, because Some of these headlines also made it in yesterday for The Guardian, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed. All right, now, what do you have for us Sunday
Let's
Daily?
move to the Sunday Telegraph. Fireworks as APC releases presidential campaign cancel list. Looks like they're happy with the decisions that was made. ADC, NDC orders still consulting. Wike, I would have declined membership because I'm in PDP. Ruling party rehabilitating failed politicians and questionable persons, says APM and ADC. Well, no words. Plateau massacre. Our attackers killed everyone on site,
No.
including a 1-year-old,
Oh, no.
says a survivor. 12 children, 70-year-old woman among victims. Why? Mrs. Jonathan, we ran out of our houses into an ambush.
Continuing on for the Sunday Telegraph, APC leaders adopt PDP candidate in Ondo State. And Senator Tofo Osun election should signpost electorate action in 2022. To the side of that, Nigeria not ready for state police, says Abakin Basharu Muraina. Now, let's see what we have next for our next daily. I think I'll take that. That will be the Tribune. And
Yes.
the Sunday Tribune has this 2027 elections, what Nigerians must do to make their votes count, rights activists say. And we hear orders crack down on taxi driver, car dealers occupying green area. Oh, wow. I have to call my friend. There's Apple Kachi Road dream come true. So if you've been to Abuja many times, you'd see that. And I think it's a beautiful thing, actually, to see these car salesmen all across the express on both sides. I think it's just it's an expression of how affluent Abuja is. And I love riding into Abuja and looking at the sides and seeing all these exotic cars and car salesmen and car lots. These are actually green areas where they're situated. I'm hoping that it's not an absolute removal of all of them, because I think it adds to the pride of Abuja. I hope it remains. I really do hope it remains. It's going to be sad if I don't see that anymore. But it's Wike. Wike does what Wike wants. Tinubu to chair one re-election campaign, council assisted by Shetima, Yowata Yari Uzodima to play lead roles. Campaign council, rehabilitation center, ADC mock. Article to FBI on Tinubu protecting probe methods mustn't shield legal scrutiny. Aha. Someone's going to use that. It's campaign season. It's definitely going to be out there. Continuing, Tinubu to chair own re-election campaign council, assisted by Shetima. I think I read that already. I'm sorry. At the top, traders lose millions on fire as fire raises shops at popular Ibadan market. I just restocked bicycles worth over 100 million naira, woman laments. 4 family members die after eating amala, 9 hospitalized. Kogi governor orders investigation. We talked about this earlier.
Yes, we did. And I'm guessing maybe it was just sanitation purpose, whatever that is. Let's move on to the Sunday Punch. Thank you. Fake agency boss fights back with appointment letter.
The guy's fighting back.
Yes. A program that has been in SGF office since July 16, 2010 was just discovered yesterday, Friday. After 16 years, Nigeria is a funny country.
Mwambweze says.
That is what
I'm loving the drama from this one. So if anything to go by from what he says is true, it would seem that these DGs of these, in quote, alleged fake agencies are unaware of the inauthenticity of the agencies they run themselves. So what if they're just the puppets? What if the masterminds are actually people who
they were really
put them in
fake?
places?
Huh? They've been surviving for 16
Because
years. Because
when you look at it, they have all the apparatus and infrastructure that's needed. You even have an office inside of the OSGF. So maybe the wool is being pulled over my eyes as the DG as well.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
I was not operating as an agency, but I know it was under investigation. The office was shut months ago, says the SGF official. I can't wait to see the end of this story.
I would love to.
I cannot wait
Professor Nna yesterday said something about the previous prince, and he
Yes.
highlighted the fact that there has been no investigation into the death of one of the
The
accomplices.
only
The only witness and accomplice of the former prince.
Yes.
Now we have another prince who's under
He died in fire, and then the hotel
was
mysteriously
demolished.
was demolished.
And nothing's been said about these guys or who they report to or who has interacted with these agencies so far. The monies that the contracts that were given out, or the monies that were given to them, from whom, who authorized it. We're not hearing all of that.
Well, we'll wait and see. Atiku, Obi camps reject single opposition candidate. Find that on page 28. Mother 3 children die in Yobe Inferno. That is sad. Amalamil, Kogi probes death of 4 family members and their dog. Really terrible. Scavengers strip Lagos bridges, homes in widespread theft.
Can you see that picture next to that? Look at that picture. Can you see the pillars of the bridge? We had the same...
Those are not pillars again.
I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to, because we had the same instance for the Festac Bridge, if you remember.
Yes.
Where I think one of the authorities said that that's not vandalism. Then it also brings to question the material that was used to make these bridges. But I'm wondering exactly, why would a vandal strip the concrete off of these pillars?
How can they strip a concrete? Those bridges are supposed to last for years. So even if they're telling us they're chipping it bit by bit, in how many years you constructed something, so you were not going to check. So they've been stripping it. If they were setting that the materials they used were going to last, long lasting. You know how you drive in Lagos and then you're looking at bridges, they are cracking, and you're like, it's not today that I'm passing on.
No, you're like, it's not when I'm on it.
It's not when I'm on it. You know, so if this is happening bit by bit, that means, 1, the bridge was never finished properly. 2, there was nobody to check to make sure that those hoodlums don't go back there to do that. 3, if you had gone and you saw it, you did not fix it.
You make a point there, because yesterday on Friday I was over the Festac Bridge, the one that came on the radar recently. And it was interesting to see that they were already returning. I could see scavengers already there putting up little umbrellas, and that's how it starts before, you know, it becomes an entire shanty town. So, yeah, there's no enforcement. There's no...
But we have
monitoring.
fake agencies.
We have what now?
Fake agencies.
Fake, yes.
We should
guys.
have fake agencies to check
Those guys.
Yes.
Are you done with that paper?
Almost. Help. Kidnappers demand 17 million to free my brother, says his sibling. This is really, really sad. I cannot wait till the day we say, you know what, raising white flag, Nigeria is insecurity free. Terrorists attack Niger mosque and abduct worshippers. And right at the top, 2027, Tinubu demands victory as Yari Uzodinma lead his campaign. And besides it, FAAC trillions, governors list projects, and Nigerians await relief. Await, we do.
Sunday Times, our final newspaper for today. I'm beginning to miss our African papers, but let's do Sunday Times here. Inside fake agency, Hanwabweze built 20 state structures from OSGF. 20 state structure. 20 state structure. Like I said on the monologue yesterday, I did go into especially their YouTube page. Very interesting what they're up to. It does look altruistic, quite frankly.
So if they're fake, they still build 20 structures?
It's not, I don't think it's a physical structure, but the fact that they have ability to impact, in quote, people who have brands or made in Nigeria products and actually help them. Yeah, it might be a ruse, but then at the end of it, there's an actual instrument that's actually doing something.
Maybe the people who were involved with these companies or agencies need to come out and testify. We need to see them.
And see if they have actually been helped out by the company, by the agency.
Yes.
Economy at crossroads as president declares Nigeria out of dark tunnel. I don't know. I'm still holding my flashlight here. The big flash, there's such light. At the very top, this is Africa. Shafi Bello's comments on respect resurface after Elumelu. There you go. And Man United fall in shocking huge defeat in Premier League opener. And at the very bottom, DTN at 100 Heroes Award, Prestige Jonathan. APC Campaign Council Rehabilitation Center for Corruption, Politicians, ADC. Wait, hang on a second. That sounds like a No, it's not.
APC campaign cancel rehabilitation center for corrupt politicians, says ADC.
I thought it was the name of another fake agency for a minute.
Basically, they're saying the campaign council is filled
With corrupt politicians.
exactly more.
It's another agency. That's what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our papers, headlines for this morning. Thank you very much for waking up to it with us. We've got conversations coming your way, big reports, and of course, yes, today we have a weekend warrior that will be telling you somewhere inside the middle of the show. Join us again or stay. We'll be back to start our conversation.
Welcome back now for our first big story. Nearly 100 days after dozens of school children were abducted from their classrooms in Mussa, Borno State, their parents are demanding urgent action from the government to bring their children home. The children were abducted from Mussa in Askira, Uba local government area of Borno State, an area close to the Sambisa Forest, and one that has continued to face threats from insurgents. What began as a school day has now turned into months of uncertainty for the affected families. The abduction has also raised fresh concerns about the safety of schools in communities affected by insurgency, particularly in a state that has witnessed some of Nigeria's most high-profile school abduction. Now let's watch this report from our correspondent Umar Kirawa.
Parents, families of abducted students and toddlers of Mussa community in Askira Uba local government area of Borno State just arrived in Uba town, the headquarters of Askira Uba local government area of Borno State, to collectively amplify their voice and call on the Nigerian authorities to ensure the rescue of their children that were abducted about 100 days ago in Mussa town of Askira Uba local government area of Borno State. We have large number of them carrying placards with inscription, "Bring back our children, Mussa," and we'll be speaking with some of the parents who will be telling us what is it like. So first, you tell us your full name.
My name is Simon Buba.
So what is it like when you people are on the street today in Uba? What is the key message that you people want to send?
We want government to bring back our children that have been adopted. Now we have 48 days now, 98 days now. We didn't see our children. So now we want government to bring back our children in peacefully so that we can enjoy our children and for our children that we are staying in Mussa before. So we need our children. Nothing we are benefiting from the government, and government will bring back our children. That's why we are here to show our concern to the government.
Okay. So that has been the key message here, bring back our children. And this is the key message that the parents and families of the abducted Mussa families are saying to the Nigerian authorities to ensure that their children are safe. And it's a mix of both men and women, the elderly and the young. And we have some women here with us who will be speaking with us. Da farko mama da yaya sunanki?
Sa'adatu.
Sa'adatu wa?
Sa'adatu Muhammad.
So ya kuka ji da hakurin wannan abin da ya faru?
Hakurin sai mu aiki ga muna mun yi rashin ƴaƴan mu har yau.
To kamar me kuke bukata yanzu da su mun gan ku a da
Bukatar mu a fito mana da yaran mu.
shine kawai damuwa.
Shine damuwa mu ba mu da wani damuwa. Bukatar mu ƴaƴa muke bukata.
Allah ya fitar da su. So what this woman said is that they only want their children to be rescued by the Nigerian authorities to ensure that they are back home safe. And here again we have another parent who will also be speaking to us. So first, self-introduction.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. My name is Shaibu Umar, the parent of the adopted student on 15 May 2016. we are begging federal government, both with Borno state government, to try and rescue back our children, the adopted children, the smallest one, and the highest one, the highest age among them is 18 years only. Please, we are pleasing for the chairman of Askira local government and the Borno state government with the commissioner of education, then Alhaji Ahmed Bola Tinubu. We are pleasing you people to rescue them, to bring them back in safely. So thank you.
So besides this, are you people continuing or today?
No, we are going to continue right from now to the death of the coming back of our children.
Thank you. We hope that these children will be rescued alive, and just like their parents are appealing to the Nigerian authorities to ensure that these children are rescued and they are reunited with their families. All they want is action, and the key message is rescue our children. Mussa. In Uba for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And joining us to give us a clearer picture of what is happening in Mussa and what the families are saying is our correspondent, Umar Kirawa. Umar, good morning. This is indeed a very, very traumatizing story. It's been 100 days, and you were on ground and you spoke with some of the affected parents. Take us through what happened during the protest. What exactly are these parents demanding from the government at this point? And I know they mentioned that they just want their children. What else are they saying? How are they feeling?
Well, it's a painful experience, and it's a heartbreaking one. Basically, the key message there is bring back our children. And that has been what the parents have been advocating. And that is basically why they left their villages to enter into Uba, in the Askira Uba local government area of Borno State, to amplify their voice, to call on the Nigerian authorities, demanding answers, demanding action, demanding rescue of their children that were abducted by terrorists that stormed the school on 15 May 2026. The situation is a very painful one. In fact, some of the parents had to sell the last bag of foodstuff that they have at home to come out to embark on this exercise. And some had to borrow money to have the chance to participate in advocating for the rescue of their children. You can see the road leading to Mussa. It's a very bad road. The parents are not demanding for hospital, they are not demanding for water supply, they are not demanding for roads. They are only demanding for the rescue of their children that were hitherto abducted by gunmen in the community. And that is basically the key message, and that is what these families are advocating for. It's a very painful one on the side of the parents, on the side of the community, but their prayers and hope is that no matter how long the night is, it must give way to the light of the dawn.
Right.
That their parents, their children will certainly and hopefully come back home alive. But they want the government to re-energize, to put more efforts, because they have not had anything besides the visit by the Commissioner for Education when he went to sympathize with them.
Yes. So, Maru, can you clarify how many children have been abducted for 100 days? And this incident, was it isolated or it has been recurring in Mussa?
Well, 42, I think, were abducted in Mussa town. And then after that incident, 36 students were also abducted who were about to write their NICO examinations in Lassa alongside a teacher. But that of Lassa, hopefully, the good side of it is some of the children were rescued by the military and the air component of the Operation Hadinkai. They were rescued alongside the vice principal of the school. But as we speak, 36 students of Lassa 2 are also in captivity. with a teacher. We went to the house of the teacher, and it's a very, I mean, some of the issues I cannot even explain, because the situation we find the families are is in a very terrible, very deteriorating manner. So the concern now is rescue these children. That is what they are demanding from the federal government and from the Borno state government and the security agencies. That is basically their concern. If some of the parents could not even speak to us because of the emotions attached to it. They are crying. Some of them are already sick. They are hospitalized. You know, it's a very painful one. Although the Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Zulum, has reassured them that the federal government and the state government with the security agencies are working towards the rescue of their children. But these parents are pushing to ensure that their children come back home safely. That is their major concern.
Kirawa, it's Mazino. Sorry to surprise you there. But Umaru, I really want to know exactly how this has impacted education in the States since these kidnappings and the absence of these children. Are children still going to school? Are parents still willing to let their children go to school?
Well, in that community, the answer is capital no. Parents are not willing to send their children to school. In fact, that is what one of the mothers told me, that should we also send our children again to the schools so that they can be abducted again? So it's
marriages.
I'm sorry, Umaru.
Take your time.
We'll give you a moment there, Umaru. We'll come back to you. Queen, earlier this morning while we're talking, you and I, you read one of these paper headlines, and you actually almost turned out that way. So it doesn't matter who you are or how distant you are from the situation. It has an impact on your humanity. To have children who cannot go to school. And for Umar, I can totally understand because he has to go through this repeatedly in Borno State.
Yeah.
Umar always brings us these stories. So I can imagine the impact on him and that he has to see this, especially in this case where you have children. And he's the one interacting with these parents.
Yes.
So I understand the pressure on him. So we'll give you a little bit of time there. It's very difficult. Just in case you're tuning in, we're talking about the instance of parents who are they're protesting the absence of their children for over 100 days in Mussa LGA. These are pictures brought to us by Omar Kira from over the week. He was with these parents, and it's a very sad situation. In Bassa and Mussa, I think there are two different instances. One of those instances had the children, actually some of them were rescued, but most of them are still away. We're going to try and see if we can speak with Umaru again. Umar Kirawa, welcome back. Apologies that you have to go through this, Umaru. Umaru, I'm wondering what the authorities have done since then. The military, the police, have there been tangible efforts by these authorities to try and see what they can do in the interim?
Well, for now, I don't think they said they are working, but you know, the concern is that the children are still in captivity, and the parents and everybody want these children back. That is the message. That is it.
Umaru, I know that, you know, this is frustrating, especially having to see this parent with your eye and going to these communities. Did the parents mention if they've been contacted by the people who took these kids? Have they had anything while they're waiting to hear from the government? Have they been asked for any ransom whatsoever?
There has been no contact also. In fact, some of the parents, when I was interacting with them, they told me that if they know the roads that these terrorists follow to carry their children, they will follow. It is either they kill all of them, or they give them their children, or they leave them in captivity with their children. Because they cannot imagine their children staying with people that they don't even know. And it's in the rainy season. When it's rain, imagine they are in the bush. How can they, I mean, what will be their situation? Some of these children are 2 years old. Some had their 4th birthday in the den of the terrorists. Which type of experience will these children come out with? I believe it will be the darkest of their history. But be that as it may, the parents have not lost hope. Their hope is much more alive. But all they want is renewed commitment, renewed effort. At least the government should at least rescue these children. That is what they are after. Although the government, the state government, because they came to Maiduguri after the protest in Uba, they came to Maiduguri to continue. But when they came and then stopped at the gate of the government house. And when they came, I learned the security of the government house led them in to the government house. And they met the governor at their own instance. The government gave them audience. He sympathized with them on behalf of the president and the government of Borno State and assured them that they are working to rescue their children. That has been what transpired, and the parents are still calling on the authorities to please bring back their children back. They don't need anything from the government. That is what they told me. All they want is their children, and their children should be back. That is it. Because they cannot stay in their villages. They could not go to farm. They cannot do anything. They cannot do business. They cannot do anything virtually. One of the father was telling me that what should they, if they stay in the community, are they cowards that they are children, that they are bullet children?
All right, Kira.
Should they? Yes.
Let's give you a moment there. We're still talking about the instance from Borno State, where nearly 100 days after dozens of children were abducted, they're still in captivity, and the parents are demonstrating urgent action needs to be taken by the governments to bring back their children. The abduction has also raised fresh concerns about the safety of schools in the community and, of course, daily lives in these communities and the resurgence of insurgency, particularly in that state. But Umaru, there has been plenty of advance that has been made by the state governor, Babagana Zulum, when it comes to insurgency. There have been reintegrations. We've talked so many times about these reintegrations into society. I'm wondering how these other processes are being affected by the missing kids now, these kids that have been missing for over 100 days. Is it daunting the efforts of the state governor in any way? And has the state governor, Babagana Zulum himself, made any intentional, deliberate, and specific comments regarding the Basa Mussa situation?
Well, the governor was in Uba the other time. He went to sympathize with the parents. He also delegated the Commissioner for Education to go to the communities to sympathize with the families in Lassa and Mussa. We were there with the Commissioner for Education. They sympathized with them. But you know, the emotions are high. And these people are villagers. They are into agri, they are into farming, and they are into selling of what they produce.
Do they still go to farms? Are they still able to go to farms? Their daily lives?
They are not going to farms.
So how do they
not
feed?
Going to farms.
How do they feed? How do they work?
That is what they told me. They cannot go to, what should they go and do? That is what they are telling me. Should they go and I mean, the experience is, all they want is bring back these children. That is the key message, and that is just it. But large number of them, they are already sick, they are already hospitalized.
Okay.
One of the women told me some of the women, they have already developed this high blood pressure. Their blood pressure is already high, you know. So it's a very pathetic situation on the side of the community.
Umaru, let's not exploit this. Let's just take this as another call out to the government and the authority to try and do something about these missing kids. Let's hope that this moment here, this instance where we have brought it up on again, is something that will be caught, that will catch the attention of the authorities, and that they will do something about this. Between now and then, we want to say thank you very much for making sure that you follow up with these stories, especially this one where children are concerned. And we really hope that this time something is done. We hope they return to their parents so that their daily lives continue as normal. Let's just continue to hope. Umaru, thank you very much. It's been a hard time for you, so let's let you go now.
Take it easy.
And we hope that your report does the work that it's meant to do. Thank you, Umaru Kirawa.
Thank you, Umaru.
Now, while the government says efforts are ongoing to secure their release, the families are demanding urgent action and clearer answers. For these families, however, the ultimate answer is not another assurance, but the safety and the return of these children. And we do hope that this happens somewhere in the next few days. Thank you very much. We'll be back. We've got more conversation. Stay with us. This is Breakfast Extra on News Central. Morning and welcome. My name is Mazino Appeal. Let's do the news top of the hour. Now we begin with security matters. Troops of Operation Hadin Kai have reportedly killed more than 20 suspected terrorists in a series of air operations across Mongono and Biu local government areas in Borno State. The military says the strikes, conducted between August 21st and 22nd, followed intelligence and surveillance missions that tracked terrorist movements and identified their concentrations. According to the Joint Task Force, about 16 suspected terrorists were neutralized in 2 separate strikes around the Adua axis in Mongono, while another group was targeted as they attempted to regroup. The separate airstrikes around Buratai and Biu local government areas reportedly killed about 10 more suspected terrorists. Now, for years, commercial motorcycle operators, popularly known as Achaba in northern Nigeria, have had a strained relationship with successive Kaduna state governments. Now the tension is resurfacing as riders accuse the Kaduna State Traffic Law Enforcement Authority, CASTLE, of making an already difficult business even harder. They say increased enforcement and restrictions are putting additional pressures on their livelihoods. On News Central's Stephen Enoch has a report here.
Motorcycle operators in Kaduna, the road is more than a means of transportation. It is their workplace, source of income, and means for providing for their families. But they say increasing encounters with traffic enforcement officials are making their jobs increasingly difficult.
Muna kira daga gwamnatin nan da ta tausaya mana ta bar mu ta cire mana wannan hukumomi na Castelia da 'yan sanda da suke dan takura mana akan wannan sana'a tamu.
The struggle with commercial motorcycles in Kaduna is not new. Successive administrations have tried different approaches to regulate or restrict their operations. In 2014, the administration of Governor Mukhtar Yero signed the Kaduna State Commercial Motorcycles Prohibition Law into effect. Then came another major restriction in 2021 under the administration of Nasir El-Rufai. But under the administration of Governor Uba Sani, operators say they saw a softer approach and more room to do their businesses. In March 2025, the government announced the distribution of 7,000 motorcycles to civil servants, including 4,000 electric motorcycles, as part of efforts to reduce workers' transportation burden. They say encounters with the state enforcement agency official can mean fines, impounding of motorcycles, or losing valuable working hours on the road.
kai belin kanka. Wani in ya tausaya ma ne zai ansa 2,000 a hannunka, wani zai ce maka in baka bada 10,000 ko 5,000 mashin ɗinka za ta je office. Wani zubin ka je office sai an ce ma sai ka kawo driving license, sai ka kawo wane ne takardu dai za a ta kakalo maka a ce dole sai ka kawo sannan a sake maka mashin. Kuma wannan mashin ɗin yadda ta yi kwana 1 zuwa 2 iyalinka suna ɗan cikin wani yanayi na damuwa. Idan ka ɗauko fasinja kana tafiya, ɗan Castilla idan ya ganka kai baka so ya kama ka, shi kuma yana so ya kama ka, ƙarshe sai ga an je an faɗi, ka ga fasinja ya yi rauni ko ka ga shi mai mashin ɗin ya yi rauni. Yanzu haka ni ina da wanda ya karye a cinya, kuma abun ya faru ne jiyan nan ma abun ya faru a stadium, nan stadium abun ya faru.
Roƙon da muke ma gwamnati dan Allah dan Annabi, inda hali wannan kama-kaman da ake yi a samu a janye mana shi. Dokar da aka sa a can baya lokacin lamarin yaro, inda hali a janye mana wannan doka yanzu, a ban mu ci gaba da nema mu iyalin mu abinci cikin kwanciyar hankali.
The operators are not necessarily asking for the traffic laws to disappear. They say they want a more understanding approach, one that recognizes the economic realities of people whose livelihoods depend on motorcycles.
Muna so muna roƙon gwamnati ta kawo mana tsari na koda taxin namu da za ta dinga yi kullum, saboda mafi yawan in an kama mu wani ba mashin din shi bane, ka gane, wani ba mashin din shi bane, an baka ne high purchase, so ka je an kama ka an karbi 20,000 10,000, daga nan wani ya rasa mashin kenan. Kaga mutum ya rasa mashin kuma sai kama wani hanyar, sai ga wani hanyar da bai dace ba.
For these riders, the concern is not simply about enforcement. It is about whether the rules of the road can be enforced without taking away the means by which they can earn a living. In Kaduna, for News Central, Stephen Enoch.
Now, a quiet family meal has ended in a chilling tragedy in Kogi State. 4 relatives are dead, and their dog is also said to have died after consuming the same meal, amala. The death occurred in Ihima, Okehi local government area, leaving the community stunned and desperate for answers. What exactly happened remains unclear. The Kogi State government has ordered an immediate and comprehensive investigation with food poisoning or contamination among the possibilities being examined. Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Femi-Fowl, says relevant food samples and other evidence are being collected for analysis. Authorities say the investigation will establish what caused the deaths and determine whether the food consumed by the family was contaminated.
Yes, I can confirm that unfortunately we lost 4 people to the food, what we suspect to be food poisoning in Ihima, Okehi local government area of Kogi State. Immediately the news was reported, the governor directed the coordinating commissioner for health to step in immediately. All the health stakeholders at the local and the state government level have been activated to be on the alert and to get to the root of the matter. As a matter of fact, those that survived it have already been moved to the Confluence University of Science and Technology Teaching Hospital in Okene for medical attention. They are currently receiving medical attention at the medical facility. And I can also confirm that the sample of the flour has now been taken to the National Veterinary Research Institute in Borno, Jos Plateau State, for further examination, while we are also stemming the spread so that others that also bought the same flour from the market will not suffer the same fate.
Every day, millions of Nigerians rely on their phones for news, health, advice, business updates, and also political information. But as digital platforms continue to grow, so too does the spread of misinformation and disinformation, making it increasingly difficult for many to separate facts from fiction. In this special report, Sumaya Abubakar examines the growing fight for access to true information.
The digital age has changed how Nigerians access information. With a smartphone and internet connection, news travels in seconds, but so do rumors, manipulated videos, fake headlines, and AI-generated content. Experts warn that misinformation and disinformation are influencing public opinion, public health, elections, and even security.
10 years ago, I could share information without thinking about it. Then that was when the WhatsApp era was just new. So we actually felt everything that came out from WhatsApp was true. But over time, we now knew that there were many people who had used such medium for nefarious activities. As it is right now, I don't believe any news. I have to verify myself.
Most times, I just go on the TV and check. If to confirm the news, though, we go to TV to check sometimes, and social media most times. But then, some news on social media are not that real.
Nigeria has laws that can be used to address harmful false information, including the Cybercrimes Prohibition Prevention Act, provisions of the Electoral Act, and the Nigeria Broadcasting Code for licensed broadcasters. Experts say while regulation is important, public awareness and responsible use of digital platforms remain the strongest defense.
Citizens must now have that instinctive curiosity that when you get something, even if you are not a journalist who are trained to be curious, you as a citizen too need to ask yourself, why are they saying this or why are they sharing this? Do they want to deceive the public? The moment you start doing that, it then means that you are not in a hurry maybe to share, because once you share, it means you believe what you have seen and you think it's worth sharing.
Don't ever believe whatever you see on social media. A lot of false narratives are there. A lot of fake lives with the entire evil life generally are there. A lot of fake lives are there. People doesn't show who they really are in real life. They just show you part they want you to see.
Today's information ecosystem has made everyone a publisher. That means the responsibility to verify information rests with everybody. Experts say every citizen should pause, verify, and think before sharing content online. Journalists, fact-checkers, and civil society groups say that they are strengthening efforts to promote credible information through verification and media literacy campaigns.
99.9% of the news on different media, authentic, legitimate media organization happens to be authentic. So that means those are the ones that will be more reliable than any other post by any individual, including political leaders, including some extent, some religious leaders.
One of the things we need to do is to invest more in messaging that targets non-digital population. That is, populations that have Android phone, iPhone, or whatever, but basically they use it just to do WhatsApp, to do TikTok, to do all those kind of things. We need to be present in those platforms so that when we see some things trending that are not true, we also use those same platforms to talk about them, at least to create element of doubt in the minds of the people.
They say protecting access to true information requires collaboration between government, technology companies, the media, and the public. As digital platforms continue to shape public conversations, experts say the fight against misinformation is not about limiting free speech, but ensuring that accurate, verified information remains accessible to everyone. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
That's all the news this hour. Do stay with us. It's still Breakfast Extra, and we've got more conversation coming your way.
Now, welcome back. The federal government is taking steps to change how Nigeria responds to people who attempt to take their own lives with an amendment to the National Mental Health Act aimed at decriminalizing attempted suicide. The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Part, argued that treating people in severe psychological distress as criminals can discourage them from seeking help when they need it the most.
So the federal government says the current criminalization of attempted suicide is rooted in colonial-era provisions of the Criminal Code and Penal Code. And the amendment is part of a broader goal to reduce suicide cases by 15% by 2030. But while decriminalization should remove one major barrier to seeking help, questions remain about what happens after that first step. So joining us to examine what this proposed change could mean for Nigerians and the country's mental health system is Expensive Lucas, a mental health advocate and executive director at Glory Lucas Foundation. Did we call you expensive?
Yeah, expensive.
Okay then, Expensive. You're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you for
Queen, would you like to go first?
Don't mind us. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm well. I mean, it's a Sunday morning.
It is a Sunday morning.
Happy to be here.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Nigerian news has not brought me down. Yesterday, I realized that I am not AI. I'm indeed a human being.
What happened?
Fake agencies.
Yeah, we have to always
We have to
verify
just
everything.
remind ourselves that, oops, okay, I'm real. Now, let's just
put it up in front of people.
And then today we've had certain moments that actually have really taken us, brought us down.
Yeah.
And then here we're faced with this conversation about suicide. So you can imagine, I mean, for people, I and Celeste here, who have to go through these news items, there's a certain toll on our
attachment.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's you know.
No, I was watching it when I was sitting down there, and I was really looking at the news on the
how sad.
Yeah, how the kidnap case.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was crying, and I thought that must be so overwhelming, just having to constantly. And then you guys had to go straight into the guys that killed them. You know, the suicide, sorry, the poisoning. And I'm like, just back to back.
It is
exposure to such intense emotion.
So to add to that, she had a monologue this morning about a young girl who was brought into the limelight when it comes to the case of respect in Africa, Tony Elumelu v. that young girl. Now, everything we've talked about today has certain effects on a person's mental state.
Yeah.
And some people, while they can take it, others may not be able to. They may resort to suicide. And that's what we're here to talk about today. The government is considering decriminalizing suicide. And they're hoping that by 2030, is it 2030 or 2030, they'll brought it down by 15%. I'm wondering what the stats are currently. Are there real stats to prove that we can actually work on? What will progress be like should they be successful? I'd like to start there, but there are deeper concerns that I'd like us to get to during the conversation. So what are these stats like?
For suicide?
For suicide, yes.
So I believe that, you know, with the report and during discussions with the FEC, they did release a 7,000 per annual suicide confirmed deaths, but I think about 300,000 attempted. I do think that those numbers, there might be a gap in those numbers because we've not really had proper reports and ways to truly track suicide in the country, especially because people are scared. I mean, prior to this reform, attempting suicide was, you know, a year in prison at least. So it's like we've not had sufficient means to really track what the true numbers are. But I would say that, you know, 7,000 a year is still a lot, and 300,000 attempted. No, so 7,000 confirmed, 300,000.
300,000 attempted.
Yeah.
That's a very staggering number. Now, these 300,000, do the police have any correspondence with these people, any arrests?
So I'm not really sure. Again, there's a really...
Because if it's criminalized,
there should be...
that the police would be involved.
Be able to exactly. So there's like such a... I feel like it's been such a very blurry, like murky situation because technically it was criminalized, but then we've not had a way to truly confirm that these people, what happens to them when they go to, or when they get caught attempting suicide. We don't know what happens. We don't know where that gap is.
Would you say the reason why it was criminalized in the first place was maybe either to put some fear in you or something? I'm trying to understand what would have been our reason to criminalize it in the first place.
So the thing is, the 327 code, which it comes from the pre-colonial era. So it was actually, you know, from the English laws. And it's so interesting because the English, they abolished that law in 1961. And we've carried it on because we, you know, I mean, there's the whole like colonization. There's also the fear. There's the stigma attached to mental health, the fact that we would think it's like a moral failing. And also I do think there was a hint of, you know, if it was criminalized, you deter people from attempting suicide. You know, if I'm going to jail when I get caught, then that means I shouldn't try it. So I wouldn't bring shame to my family, or I wouldn't go to prison.
Yeah, but this is somebody who's already, you know, distressed.
Exactly.
So what harm or what good does it do to criminalize?
To take them away. Yeah, because now I feel like it just gives them the mentality that, you know, I have to get this done really perfectly. Like, if I'm going to do it, I better do it well. Exactly. So I don't think it really deters them, but I'm sure that was, I would assume that that was the intention, you know, behind the law in the first place.
Or do you think it might push them to seek help?
I don't think so. I don't think criminalizing suicide would have. I think it did more harm than good because, you know, you think about people that are already distressed. What they really need is a safe space. And treating something as sensitive as being ill, because I mean, having mental health crisis, that's you being sick, that's an illness, that's an ailment. So it's like treating that as something that should be punished doesn't make them want to seek for help. You can't help a sick person. If you had malaria and you told me that I have malaria, I'll go to prison if I have malaria. I'm not going to want to come talk to you about my malaria. It's the same way, you know, telling them that they would go to jail wouldn't make them want to come talk.
Now, based on the stats that you mentioned, you said 7,000 confirmed and about 300 attempted.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about Nigeria as a whole. What would you say are the major factors that is leading people to committing suicide?
I would say, I mean, the most pressing of all has to be our socio-economic conditions, situation. I feel like we underestimate the level of pressure that, you know, having poor economic, you know, status can have on people. You know, you see people that lose their jobs or don't have money to feed. And the next thing is, how am I supposed to take care of my family? And then you think about black tax, you think about all of these things. I feel like we have to consider that. We have to consider academic pressure. I feel like because of the, you know, we put a lot of weight into, you know, the desire to succeed. And because people want to succeed, I would take this to youth. When they're in school, they, I know a case, actually a friend of mine in 2025 committed suicide. This was, I think, a month before his graduation. He had some issues with his results. And he committed suicide, not attempted. So it's like you think about all the academic pressure and they see nowhere else. It's like, you know, I would rather, you know, just go. And the thing is, we also make it very unsafe to express like vulnerability. And because we make that very unsafe, people that should come seek for help or come talk to someone would rather just think, I mean, if I go, no one will be there for me, no one will really understand me. So I feel like we have to, I mean, these are the issues that I would say really push people to want to attempt to.
So in terms of opening up, would you say that is a culture here? Because you know here in Nigeria, any small thing, you say man up. Man, just not a cry. So would you say in terms of the start, do we have a higher rate of people committing suicide here in Nigeria?
Than maybe other African countries?
Than other African countries?
I would say we do have a concerning rate. I don't know the exact stats yet, but I know we do have a very alarming rate. I think pretty high up there when you look at Africa. But generally, suicide is like one of the top 3 causes of death for young people. So we have to account for that. I do think in Nigeria we have an alarming rate. And if we're putting it up with other African countries, I do think it's high up there, the rates of suicide in the country.
So let's say the government goes through with this and it's abolished and it's no longer criminalized, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Do we have... So what happens after that? I mean, if you're not going to arrest and if this is not going to serve as a deterrent, let's take it out. We take it out. Now then what? Are you saying that we have the facilities, the mental health experts, the drugs, the monies to be able to take care of 300,000 attempted cases unconfirmed? Do we have that much facilities or ability?
I don't think so. And you know, it's interesting because the result of this move is to decline or reduce the suicide rate by 15% in 2030. But it's like, I think that we need more structure. We need a more comprehensive framework if that goal is supposed to be achieved, because you're looking at just the law itself is just a step. And I feel like that's even that's a reaction to a crisis. That's like, you're saying, okay, now if you attempt the suicide, you won't go to jail. But what happens before you attempt the suicide? How do you ensure that it doesn't get to that point? I feel like we should be focusing more on the prevention than we are on the aftermath, because the fact that it has gotten to the aftermath alone is very concerning. We should be looking at,
And what would prevention be? What would it look like?
I mean, really just ensuring, first of all, we have really poor facilities. We don't really have that. I feel like it would be really sensitizing and making sure that mental health is a, would I say, normal. Like it's a
front burner topic, one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then two, that there's enough awareness to know what to do.
To know what to do, how to
that kind of situation.
Exactly, and then we should really create, what I say, means for people, directories for people to, if they need to speak to someone, it should be functioning directories that are consistent. And then if we do that, I mean, we can maybe curb the amount of people that actually do commit suicide. Now, if they get to that point where they attempt and we say we're no longer criminalizing it, where do they go to? What? I mean, in the entire country, I can count how many we have with all of my fingers, or like, my toes also.
So for people who are attempting, right? Most times they will say go to therapy.
Yeah.
You need to speak to someone, and this person is lamenting, I cannot feed.
Yeah.
I don't know when my next rent.
Now you want me to
is
pay for
coming.
therapy.
Now you want me to go and pay someone to tell the person now say, how are you? What can that person do? So if someone who's watching now is thinking of committing suicide, what's the first step they can do if they cannot even afford therapy? And what if they don't have anybody around them that they can trust? What should they do at this point?
I feel like, while there isn't a large, support system, I feel like to match with the numbers that we have, there are spaces. I know that a lot of civil society groups have been doing, they've been creating safe spaces, numbers that people can reach out to, directories that people can reach out to if they need to talk. So I know a couple off my head that I could possibly recommend right now, to reach out to if it's an emergency.
Do we have an emergency number?
We do, actually. I believe it's 112. I think it's 112. We do. But people like to steer off calling that because, again, first of all, it was criminalized, and then it's like you're speaking to, you don't know who you're speaking
Just call,
to.
I need help, next thing you're in kiri-kiri.
Exactly. You don't know where the warmth is coming from or what's going to happen to you after now. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just finding out that Nigeria does have that mental health act already established. Rights to mental health care, counseling, rehabilitation, aftercare support. It also envisages community-based mental health care.
Yeah.
So the question for me is, do we really need another law? Do we just need to make sure that this works?
Okay, so the reason why the law even came in, so the National Mental Health Act, I think that was 2021. Yes, so that was, the first comprehensive mental health act, I believe, in Nigeria. Now, the reason why they're choosing to abolish the law, the 327 code of criminalizing suicide, is if you have this already in place, and then you have a law that is choosing to criminalize the very people that you're trying to help. You're trying to tell them that it is normal to seek for help and give them all this access to care, but then you're telling them, if you come to me and you seek for help, I'm sending you to jail.
Exactly.
Like, then it's a contradiction.
So it's
exactly. So what?
For help? We're joking. We're getting you arrested.
Kind of like, like a pretext for the FBI to take you away. Exactly.
Like,
so they're just. So they're pretty much just trying to erase the contradiction. So I don't think this is I think this is something that should have been done much earlier, way before the Mental Health Act was even established, because this is such a, I feel like in the grand scheme of things and really addressing mental health in full force, this is very minute. Impressive, but still very minute, and something that should have been done before the Mental Health Act was even
So is it legislation or is it implementation at this point?
Implementation.
We're not implementing it because we already do have this, and then we're now criminalizing on another side. So if we do abolish the punishment, if we do remove the criminalization, then we're on the right track.
We're on the right track.
What we would need now is facility, capability, people, the know-how.
Yeah.
And are we investing in that as Nigeria? How much investment do we have in mental health facilities, professionals, and all of that?
We don't. I think that's like, that's the, yeah. That's a very, I don't even think. I think the budget, in the health budget, that was probably what, less than 10%? No, actually less than 5% last time I looked at it. Don't quote me anywhere, but I'm sure it was less than that. And for something that is so alarming, because when you look at stats, you see like 1 in, and I think UNICEF or the WHO did a stat, 1 in 5 young people in the country struggle with their mental health. So it's like, for something that is so pressing and so alarming, we have very sparse financial allocation to truly creating infrastructures that make this work.
Well, for a country that, we're having fake agencies and budget. Yes, I am. Because, let's think about it. Let's talk about the monies. If we talk about PFIPC, it was 26.1 billion that was allocated. And now they are saying, oh, they had not given them the money. So if they were never found out, they would have given them the money. And now we don't have enough budget for the mental health, for even, our health system, education.
Very citizens who pay
jam scores are going low. Very soon, you just need 80 to go into university. It's mind-boggling. It's affecting us. So, and if you want to reduce something by 15% in 2030, that's in 4 years.
Yeah.
Can we do that? We've spent allegedly 252 billion yesterday, as you know, in 6 months for insecurity. They're still kidnapping, 100 days, children are not back home. So how are we going to measure if our stats are not even correct?
I'm beginning to think that decriminalizing it is actually not to our advantage.
Why did you say so?
Well, you have to consider, if you decriminalize, would you not be giving people the opportunity to go ahead and, attempt? That's on one side. That's
well, attempt will help you. And again, in Nigeria, help me, I'll come, I attempted.
This is it. If you attempt and we catch you, you're going to jail. So if you remove it, think about what happened in Ceuta, the immigration, when they removed the law, everybody ran to go swim across the...
And I had to beg them to voluntarily go back.
Imagine decriminalizing and what happens. People would perhaps, maybe in a certain scenario, want to attempt. Now, if you remove it, then that means you have to have the facility, the people, the know-how, but you don't have that.
So expensive. Do you think
we can be left as it is for now?
Do you think we can have that reduction?
Ability on the other side.
Okay, so I would answer both questions. I was going to answer both at the same time, but I don't think I can split myself. But so why I don't think that decriminalizing was the wrong choice. I think it was a very important necessity. That was a law that should never have been in place in the first place. And that also addresses, I feel like it's one step into rewriting how mental health is perceived in the country. People, as much as we say Nigeria is a lawless country, people still like to go back to the law sometimes. Yeah. So if the law, when people talk about suicide and you meet some people when you tell them about mental health, and they say, it's not illegal to even attempt suicide. There's this hard, it has strong belief.
It's a taboo.
It's a taboo. So the fact that we've taken that out is a step in the right direction. Now, I would use that to answer your question.
Yes.
Whether that automatically means we can reduce suicide by 15% is something I'm not certain about. If we keep going the way we are without proper infrastructures put in place, if we do not improve the mental health workforce, and this means, both first aid response systems, actual psychologists, psychiatrists, if we do not, ensure that we're able to pretty much integrate mental health education in a systemic way, a way that ensures that, we are actually addressing the root cause of this. We're addressing...
I'm okay.
So, sorry. We're addressing the stigma. We're addressing the actual problem itself. We're addressing both prevention and after effects. If we do not put in measures in place for that, I don't see how 15% reduction will be possible by 2030.
Now that you talked about, all the measures, how long do you think it would take to put these things in place? Does it take that long? Really?
4 years. You have 4 years, 2030.
Yeah.
So, can you do that in 4 years?
4 years.
Or less?
I think we could. If we were being intentional with it, we could.
So basically, we're losing the intentionality in it.
Like if we were being very deliberate with it and not just, saying it for the, for the semantics, for we've done, we said we're going to do mental health. Yeah, if we're actually doing it and we're...
just say it and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like we could put in measures. Now, whether we would put in 100% full foolproof measures before 2030 is something I'm not certain about.
Okay, we'll start with 50.
We can do 50. We can take it out by 7.5% or 10%. We can do that. But if we just say the word and leave it as it is, I really don't see how 15% is possible. And which was one of my concerns with the entire discussion with the FEC, because, you know, I think there was no definite plan, no concrete plan on what would happen. It's just, okay, we hope this reduces by 15%, but this doesn't. Things are just, you know, going to remain as it is.
Let's move from policy to real life. Let's say that this punishment is taken away. That means we'll have to deal with the real life instances that it presents. And the first few hours after an attempt is very, very critical. So what should happen in a case where somebody attempts? What has to be done, whether medically, psychologically, or even socially? What should be the what do you call? What should be the
first aid response?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
So for every suicide case, every uncompleted suicide case, what is important is ensuring that the person is safe. You know, at that moment, you have to take out every single thing that could possibly be a trigger for them. And the hospital, a facility immediately, a first aid, you know, proper first aid response. You have to, but the most immediate care is ensuring that they're good, that, you know, there's no damage, no critical damage to them, and they're like, you know, as good as one can be after something of sort, and then taking them to a facility. And I mean, in a facility, same professional care, there's, you know, proper procedures for all of these things. But if you're a first aid person and you find someone that is in an attempt, because, you know, it's a very thin line, right, between trying to get you know, get into the right facilities and all of that stuff. But it is important that there's nothing around them that could possibly hurt them at that moment. That's very important, because
socially, people around them, family, what responsibility do they? I'm sorry, you were supposed to ask the final question.
No. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, but socially, it's very important to know, because if I was in a situation where someone I knew attempted, I would like to know what to do to help. So apart from first aid, medical, then there's that social response that we should give. So what should it be like in terms of support?
I feel like most people, one thing that I would say is when interacting with people that have been victims of, you know, a suicide attempt, it is to treat them as normal as possible. And I say this because a lot of them are on a fight or flight mode, and they really like receive, you know, your interaction, they receive the micro signals. So you have to treat them as normal as possible. I mean, be empathetic, you know, pay social cue, look out for them, but your interactions with them should not be clouded by the fact that this person just attempted suicide. It should be very absolved of that. I mean, internally you know that, but when you're interacting with them, because what you want is for them to not feel like they're abnormal, like there's something wrong with them, like, you know, because you
patronizing.
Yeah, don't be patronizing. Don't come with pity too. A lot of you know, they would go on. They want to go on as normal, quote unquote, but you have to ensure that you're not pitying them, if that's the right word. You have to ensure that you're as neutral as possible with your interactions, and you just treat them as the same. I mean, if somebody was sick with you and had a fever, you wouldn't look at them differently because they have a fever. You'd be, okay, you have a fever, like, you know, let's do that. So you have to be as
So that is for when we find out that the person attempted suicide.
Yeah.
How do we know, real quick, how do we know that someone around us is having mental issues? How can you, you know, dictate? We're all going through the economic issues.
Yeah, we are.
But in 30 seconds, what do you think, how can we identify someone? What traits,
I think
apart from their flight or fight mood?
I feel like you know, with mental health, it's so diverse and there's no singular mode to identify.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, if you know someone well, you can always tell when there's a change in their cues. It's either they go from really happy to extremely sad, or extremely sad to extremely happy. There's like this minute change in their behaviors that is out of normal. And I feel like we usually would know, but we try to pretend that nothing is wrong. I feel like as a society, we would rather not look at what
We'd rather say, yeah, she's
and yeah, like she's one of our moods. So, and the moods, and the thing is,
from an extrovert to an introvert.
Or from an introvert to an extrovert. It goes both ways. So it's like the little cues, the little out of normal behaviors. I mean, obviously, don't just go tell anyone that's having out of normal behaviors. I think you're.
Oh no!
Don't do that. But it's the little cues that kind of really tell you. And if you're lucky enough and they open up to you, then that's amazing.
You missed one last week. I was stressing through Saturday last week. You didn't say to me, "Hey, Mazino, how you doing?" No.
Hold my hands.
Thank you very much, Queen.
I would hold it.
We're together. And there you have it, guys. The proposed decriminalization of attempted suicide could represent a major change in Nigeria's approach to mental health, from punishment to protection. But changing the law is only the beginning. The real test will be whether a person experiencing a mental health crisis can find help quickly, affordably, and without fear or judgment. A big thank you to our guests, of course, Expensive.
What a name.
What a name. And thank you for having this conversation with me and Mazino. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Let's go on a short break. When we return, my favorite segment on Sunday.
Which she doesn't present.
Good
morning again and welcome. It's time for the strips this time. And of course, like Queen would say, it's her best moment all Sunday. Welcome. Let's do the strips. Of course, Queen will be joining. Celestine, how are you? Let's do the strips together, shall we? Queen, where are you? I think our director, Raji, is a bit occupied. Raji,
I am
focus.
right here.
All right, Queen, good. So today we have a very interesting set of strips, which were gotten from across the week from different newspapers. Let's start with one called Campaign Promises, 100% Steam. This one's very interesting. Let's remember the Osun elections now. The Osun elections that just ended. This cartoon marks the gap between campaign rhetorics and what politicians actually have to offer. The empty pot, well, that's the central metaphor here. It's labeled Campaign Promises, 100% Steam. So while the politicians insist that the people can be fed hope on high steam is what they're feeding you guys now, the joke is that there is plenty of heat, but absolutely no substance. And the ingredients, you can see them on the wall there. There's a list. It says uncapped promises, 89%. Rhetoric. There's also recycled manifesto. There's what else? There's hot air. There's patience, only 20%. Song and dance, and that's what gives this cartoon away, because song and dance only goes with one governor. And of course, you know, Adeleke is a dancer, and he loves to, you know, put up a show once in a while. So this is against the backdrop of the Osun governorship elections that just ended, and the cartoon is essentially asking, what exactly were voters being offered beyond promises, beyond what they know? It also captures the transactional nature of electioneering. Politicians can make all these promises during campaigns, while voters are expected to just simply remain patient when delivery doesn't match the rhetorics that they're giving. So what do you think about this one? Queen, is from Business Day, and it is a Sukwa.
It's very simple. If there's one thing I need to say there is, while they are cooking, they need to understand that the steam goes up. You that is cooking will get affected by the steam. Keep promising, don't fulfill it, it will get to you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we'll leave it so, because we have more, no problem. Let's take a look at our next one. It's a very interesting one, this one. And of course, you can also have a part. You can also always send us in one if you like. We could take it on the next weekend. Let's talk about father-daughter. I love this. This is Bulama from Daily Trust. Because Borno is not Oyo. Now, 100 days of captivity. This is arguably the most political and pointed cartoon of all the four that we have today. We just came off of an interview, a conversation with Kirawa, who broke down while he was telling us about the fact that we still have kids who have been in captivity 100 days since after. That broke us down in the studio here. Now, the daughter here is asked in a very simple question, why are Borno school children still in captivity after 100 days? And the father's answering, because Borno is not Oyo. Remember the Oyo kids? They were rescued. Now, it turns geography here into political accusation. We had that instance, it was attended to, but the Borno instance, 100 days, we don't hear anything about it, Queen. We really haven't heard anything about these kids after 100 days in captivity. Imagine when it was the Oyo instance. It was on every single bit, on the news, social media, people were talking about it. Why is there that disparity? This cartoon is suggesting that the urgency with which government responds to insecurity may depend on where the victims are actually located, rather than simply on the seriousness of the crime. The reference here to Borno immediately invokes the long-running insurgency and vulnerability of school children in the northeast. Any thoughts here, Queen?
Well, we talked about remember when, the children from Oyo were rescued after 40-something days. We talked about it to say the next thing we'll hear is, what about us? And that is exactly what's happening. If, it took them that short time to be able to get them, why don't you replicate, the operation on this other side? And it's really heartbreaking, although we've had conversations where they said, oh, we don't necessarily have to give you all the detail of what we're doing because it's social media, people are hearing, people are listening, we can tell you our strategy. But 100 days, parents are concerned, they're frustrated, and we're just praying and hoping that this does not end badly because it is really, really disturbing.
I won't say anything, I'll just leave it there because I think what you've just said caps it all. There's no point to overflog it. Let's move on to our third one for today. Hunger warhead, the flag off of campaign season is here. Ladies and gentlemen, no, not this one. We'll come back to this one. This one's it's a bit ambiguous, but it's the one with the missiles. Yes! Very interesting. Let's talk about this. Campaign season flagged off during the week, last week. This cartoon takes aim at perhaps one of Nigeria's most enduring electoral practices. If you look there, you'll see it, turning poverty into political currency. The missiles are labeled Hunger Original Rice Warhead. Now, that's deliberate. It's absurd, but it's great imagery because rice and food are being portrayed as weapons. It's weaponized during campaign season, and politicians, well, they instruct that you ensure that it hits the grassroots for maximum votes, because that's where they really intend for this kind of mechanism to actually take effect. The poor people, the vulnerable people who, food is very, very necessary. They'll go for it. So food isn't being distributed primarily as welfare. It's as warfare. It's being deployed as electoral weapon. And then there's also the campaign van in the corner here. If you can see that with the two politicians. What does it say? Vote honorable for constant rice and corn. Rice for all? Okay, it's rice for all. So that slogan is the punchline. The promise of constant food is presented as an inducement for votes. What you think, Queen? Are you expecting any missiles in your...
I hope...
Where are you from? Ugoja? Where's that place you're from?
Biase.
Biase. What's it like there when it comes to elections period? What do you know? Have you ever been there?
I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like.
You should go home often.
I don't want to.
But have you ever experienced election or electioneering in a maybe a grassroots instance?
I've seen. I've seen a lot of people collecting palliatives, and it's always the same thing. If it's not rice, it's oil, is noodles, and it's always the same thing. But the question now to the people is, after that, you wait for another 4 years to collect another one
bag of rice, yeah?
At the detriment of no road, no insecurity. I think people need to, or I believe that Nigerians are beginning to understand that the rice will only last you for about 2 months, and then you have the remaining 3 years and 10 months to live without that rice. So you have to make your decision. Don't sell your votes for rice. It's not going to do anything for you.
Don't monetize your votes. Don't rice-atize your votes.
Right.
Let's put it that way. Interesting cartoon here. Asuka, once again, Business Day. I love Business Day for their cartoons. And this one, Okpara again, Business Day. Yet again, let's talk about this. Very interesting. Thugs after election. Oshun in the limelight again. And of course, the courtroom makes its way into this cartoon. This is probably the most humorous one of the cartoons we have today. But there's a serious point underneath it all. The thief here is grabbing what appears to be a ballot box, only to discover, I don't think he has yet, he's being told that it contains Akara. As in, calm down, Akara, you're the thief. So the woman shouts, stop, that's not Akara. That's not a ballot box. Sorry, hey, stop, that's Akara, not ballot. And then the thug here is saying, go to court. So the punchline is doing a lot of work here. Against the backdrop of the just concluded Oshun elections, it's walking the familiar Nigerian post-election cycle. Of course, we can see that happening already. Election, dispute, accusation, litigation. But the cartoon also adds another layer. The thug doesn't even need a legitimate argument. Go to court becomes a, reflective, political, response to almost anything that goes wrong during the elections. That's what we're seeing, because we have heard that there are certain discrepancies that are being considered by the opposing party that might take them to the judiciary. Queen, your thought? You're laughing. I want to say, first of all, congratulations, INEC. Once again, I'm saying it today. I loved the conduct of the election. There was very limited violence or moments of violence or discrepancies. That we have to give a hand to INEC. The people of Oyo, however, did you see the video with them escorting their ballot boxes to the...
I saw.
on motorcycles?
I saw.
Ingenious, brilliant.
I think, to be fair, again, we need to... The cartoon says it all. We need to understand that the ballot is not just paper. That is our life.
Yeah.
And for some, you know, the first food you eat in the morning is your life, which is Askira and pap. So we all have to be careful as to what we are doing to not endanger ourselves. We've had strips here where we saw one where they went for, you know, to collect another money, and they said, don't worry, the future generation will pay.
They'll
we need
pay
to
back.
be careful.
That's about our national debt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope that we take into consideration these things.
I just noticed how gleeful she looks. She's like...
I got you. I'm coming for you.
On that note, that's it for the strips today. Thank you very much, Queen, for joining. Always a pleasure to do this. I love the strips. I think in a Nigerian instance, the cynicism of Nigerians can always be translated into comedy, and comedy actually is one way that we get to understand things as Nigerians. Thank you very much. Do stay tuned. It's still Breakfast Extra. We've still got quite a couple of conversations to go here. We'll be back.
Now, Angelique Kidjo has added another major milestone to an already remarkable career. The Beninese music icon has been honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, becoming the first African musician to receive the prestigious recognition. But this movement is bigger than the star itself. For decades, Kidjo has carried African sounds, stories, and culture to audiences around the world. And today, a new generation of African artists from Afrobeats to Amapiano is taking that global influence even further. So what does Angelique Kidjo's latest recognition tells us about how far African music has traveled? And beyond the applause and international recognition, is Africa fully benefiting from the global demand for its music? And joining us is a music journalist, Emmanuel Dara Loye. Emmanuel, good morning. Mazino.
Emmanuel, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. I guess we can all celebrate with Angelique Kidjo. After all, she's just next door, or from next door here. I had the privilege to meet her a couple of years ago, I think maybe 6 or 7. And she's such a pleasant person, actually. Very, very pleasant woman. But, Emmanuel, let's start with the significance of the moment. What does Angelique Kidjo's receiving of a Walk of Fame star represent for African music? Let's start there.
Yeah, thank you. It's a season of celebration over here in Nigeria, probably across Africa. What the recent achievement of Angelique Kidjo, what is connotes for Africa, I think there are stratas to that. 1, it shows that Africans are being recognized. 2, it shows that the music is traveling. 3, it shows that Angelique Kidjo Pan-African message is being well received across board. 4, it shows that the future is bright for African music. 5, it shows that the world is listening. So, you know, you can be listening and not be paying attention. The world is listening and paying attention to African music. And I have a feeling that this will definitely not be the last. More will come for African artists that are championing the Pan-African message beyond music. Because if you are talking about Angelique Kidjo, she's beyond music. There are so many humanitarian activities from her work, even speeches. I was, yesterday before I slept, I was reading an article by BBC. In that article, she was so strong on African music. According to her, she said the achievement is not even about herself, it's about Africa. And she made reference to the rap, the blues, the R&B, that if you trace the genealogy, you can trace it to Africa. Say, for instance, rap, as a music genre, began from slaves that were on the sugarcane plantation, Pan-Atlantic Street. It started from them. From rap, if you are a very rap-conscious human being, if you take the history of rap, we Africans started it for mumbling. For rap is just a short form of poetry. It's ewi. Ewi in Yoruba, chant, incantation. So I think I'll stop at that.
Thank you.
Of course, Kijo has been building a global audience for African music for decades. Yeah. And can you just share with us how important was her generation in terms of creating the pathway for today's global African stars?
They've created. And when we are talking about Kijo, we have to remember Salif Keita of Mali, Nigeria, King Sunny Ade, Ebenezer Obey, Fela Kuti. I think they are a generation of artists. So they've laid the foundation for whatever Wizkid, Burna Boy, or Davido are currently doing. They've laid that foundation. If you are saying that probably Burna Boy or any of these artists are selling stadium or O2 Arena, King Sunny Ade, Adeli Kijo, Salif Keita, the South African legend and others, they've done that. They've done that. So they've set the pace. So they are Wizkid and all that, they are building on it. And like I said, they made the world aware. They made them more aware about African music. And one of the domino effects of this thing that we are not noticing is, in the last 10 years, more record labels have come to Africa to invest in the talent.
Okay. Let me pause you there. Let's talk about this record label thing.
If they are not feeling the music, they won't come.
Emmanuel, let's talk about these record labels and whether they absolutely are necessary anymore, because the way I see it, the music industry has been democratized when you talk about the fact that you can stream anything. You don't need a label to get your music to Johannesburg or to get it to London or to get it to New York. All you simply need to do is put it out there on the internet. And if it's that good, it will make its own way. So where do we see the music labels where it comes to Nigerian music? Are they absolutely necessary? When it comes to African music, are they absolutely necessary anymore? Especially now that we're on the world map, world stage.
Of course, music labels are necessary. They are necessity. You can't do it without them. Because one, they have the structure already. They have like structure that runs for thousands of years, for like 100, for 50 years. Imagine someone that has been running a record label for 50 years. Do you know the kind of networking, the kind of key stakeholder he or she or the record label we have in their cover? So music labels are necessary. Let me give you an instance. Let me give you a very cogent instance.
Go ahead.
To collect royalty in every country or all of, there's different type of royalty that record label collect for artists. Sometimes you can't collect this record label if you can't collect this royalty if you are not a strong label. You can't. You can't. Let me give you an instance. I'm sure Saheed Osupa or Alabi Pasuma, we have a royalty in one country, in one Asian country or one European country that they might not have collected because they don't have a strong record label. That's why you see sometimes you see Pasuma, you see all these you see Fuji artists getting signed to Sony for publishing. So Wizkid, Davido, to just a summary, even the top team in Nigeria, they are signed to foreign record label.
Yes, so I'm aware of that.
Foreign record label are still important.
Okay.
They are important.
Well, I'm aware of that, but I'm just noting the fact that that gatekeeper instance has been removed, that you can become popular without the record label. Maybe you do need it to collect your royalties, yes. But regarding being gatekept from blowing, in quote, I think that has been removed. With the likes of Angelique Kidjo putting us or reminding the world that Africa is the one place to look toward when it comes to great music. Queen, let me let you ask a question because I have another one that might take us into further conversation. I don't want to.
You can take all the time, but Emmanuel, I just wanted to ask, with the way African music is growing, I think now as people get older, they're appreciating the likes of Fela and the music that he sang, which is kind of our reality now. You know, the foundation has been beautiful. Tell us, would you say that African artists are shaping the idea when it comes to global music culture?
Of course, they are shaping the idea. They're shaping the idea. But my problem with a lot of African artists is I believe it should be beyond music. It can be more. A lot of time when I watch their interview, most especially all these top tier, I'm not really comfortable with the way they portray Africa. Sometimes they lack history. They don't even understand history. That's why when Burna Boy just come online and say whatever he likes about some of his contemporary or the pace setter, the problem is they don't understand history. So I believe it should be beyond music. It should be beyond music.
Right.
More.
So Emmanuel, when
it should be beyond music. That's why I mentioned Adele Kijo. That she's doing it beyond music, portraying the African essence to the world. So what I think they need to do is, one, they need to go through activism. There should be activism. And firstly, they need to be educated about their history, about the history of music, the history of the generation, of their forefathers, what they've done. So that when they go online, when they go to New York Times or New Yorker, when they speak to these foreign journalists, they are well coordinated and they know what they are saying. So I think they need to learn from Adeline Kijo. She's a good example. Me, as a journalist, I'm learning from her. I told you yesterday before I slept, I read up on her and I like what she was saying. She made a statement that she was emphasizing that this laurel, this accolade is not for me. It's for Africa. And she was even, in that article, she was urging the reader, the listener to come back home and probably research more about their music. I think this is what I think Davido, Wizkid, and all of them should be doing. They should educate the fans. Don't forget this war, Twitter war. No. It's beyond that. It's a serious matter. That's why I don't really have time for all this Twitter, Facebook war. No. Right now, the conversation should be more deep. It should be deeper. Enough of all this one they call Davido. No, that's not what you are saying. Well, they should come together.
Emmanuel, I like where you are going in terms of what you're saying. So now, based on all the things that you've mentioned, would you say that that is the reason that we never, to be fair, we never really pass a certain level because they are focusing on the wrong thing and they are losing out on some areas that they're supposed to be focusing on?
Of course. Well, of course, that's one of the reasons. And also, they are not united. They are not. They are not united. I tell everybody, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that African music is having at the global stage. The African artists are not united. They are not. Imagine a situation whereby Wizkid, Burna Boy, Davido, they come together and champion a cause. Do you know what a united force can be? But when they are just separated, doing things at their own will, the result might not be there. It might not be there. So we have a lot to learn from Mama Africa. I'm learning from her as a journalist, and I wish other stakeholders, other musicians can learn from her and probably take a cue for that for the next one decade or more.
Emmanuel, let's talk about streaming now. Streaming is actually very good data for Nigerian music, African music generally, and Spotify is actually at the head here. Spotify says Nigerian artists generate 30.3 billion streams in 2025. That's Nigerian artists. Now, Nigerian music accounted for more than 80% of tracks on Spotify, Nigeria's top daily 50. So I'm wondering how these numbers actually, what they tell about Nigeria's position in this engine room when it comes to contemporary African music. What does it tell us about our position in Africa?
It shows we are a global force. One, it shows we are a global force. Two, it shows that people are listening to us. And we have to be conscious of the fact that a lot of the listeners might not be from Nigeria. They might not be. They might not be from Nigeria. They are across board. I think if you have a Spotify account, there's a way you can check. If you're an artist, there's a way you can check
the
your
data.
Top 5 or top 10 listeners.
Yeah.
So some of the artists I've worked with also that I've consulted.
So what's the Nigerian government not doing? Let's bring in policies here. What advantage are they not seeing when it comes to these numbers that Spotify has told that Nigeria generates when it comes to our content we're putting out there with music? What can they do?
I think the government have a lot to do when it comes to the music industry. One, I was featuring on the television station 2 weeks ago, and I told them that in Nigeria right now, it's difficult for an artist to do a 36-state tour. 36 states tour. It's difficult due to the insecurity, due to the lack of adequate venue. And apart from that, I think the government needs to fund the industry too. They need to support the creative. but probably giving out some soft loans, some grants for the artists. There's a lot the government can do in this regard. The government can support them via loan, via grant, educating them. So I don't want to say too much.
You've just said something.
I'm not really impressed with what the government is doing.
You've said enough.
I'm not.
You've said enough. I wanted to talk to Queen about something. Queen, he just said something very interesting and very important. The fact that the government isn't doing enough and Nigerian artists can't make a 36-state tour in Nigeria because of the insecurity. It made me think about music tourism. What if Africa, Nigeria was the one spot where people, and this used to happen a couple of years ago, people used to come into Nigeria for great concerts, but these days I can't remember the last time I had a fantastic concert or heard of a fantastic concert in Nigeria that attracted international travelers.
Only Dirty December.
It doesn't even, well, Dirty December. I mean, there's relatives. I'm talking about actual foreigners coming in just to see a Nigerian act or an African act in their homeland. Think about it. This translates to monies being lost because if Davido or Wizkid has to go outside the country for a concert, that's where the money stays.
Yeah.
All the ancillary businesses around this concert center make money, and we lose that here. If that was in Nigeria, I don't know if he's now welcome in Edo State, Davido, I mean. But if this was in Nigeria and you had people come in, the money, well, it's dollars to naira, first of all.
A lot of people don't travel here anymore because they're being told, don't travel to Nigeria because of insecurity, you'll be kidnapped. So that's already a problem. So it's a flag affecting everything.
Emmanuel, what do you think about this little parley here regarding music tourism?
It's true. You know, instead of coming to Nigeria, they prefer to go to Ghana.
Oh,
and
the
Ghana government are tapping into it. They understand the business. It seems you are not noticing. The Ghanaian government are tapping into it a lot.
Yeah, we're noticing that.
That's the best experience that they ought to have in Lagos or Ibadan or Abuja. But, you know, insecurity is life. When you are not secure, you are not...
Well, so Emmanuel...
Me as a journalist, I don't go to any place.
To having choppy network there.
Of course.
You can try ask that.
Again, you know, based on all that we've said, we can see all the loopholes. We've talked about how insecurity can affect not just lives, every single thing, you know, even down to the economy. Now, would you now say that all of these factors are the issues why maybe our artists are still dependent on Western institutions, the Grammys and all whatnot? We're not able, because we're not together, we're not able to create our own, so we're dependent on their own rule and what they give.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Because, see, one of the greatest way artists make money all over the world is through performance. For me, it might be difficult for you to make a large chunk of money. So the reason you see Nigerian artists traveling to the UK, to all other European countries, is because they want to perform. They want to earn in foreign currency. One, they can't perform here. Ask yourself, how many artists are really making money from performance? Right now, I can just count two that are making money, real money from performance. So a lot of them, they just go to shows in the overseas. And when you check some of their shows, they just small number of people. And it's even, let me give you an instance that you are not noticing. Do you know, due to this, a lot of Nigerian artists, they prefer speaking with foreign platform than Nigeria platform. They prefer. A lot of time when I read articles from foreign platform, they are just probably not just taken from there. But they prefer speaking with them than Nigeria platform. So the Western validation that the Grammy and all that, I think the solution is very simple. Everybody needs to come back home. The government needs to make everything conducive.
Yes, indeed.
Like I said, you need to make things conducive. If you don't want people to travel abroad to perform, make the home conducive. They will perform, they will come.
At the moment, it sounds like
the government has a lot to do.
At the moment, even with Angelique Kidjo's big win, it sounds like we are a cultural export. So if you had advice for stakeholders, how do you think, or what advice would you give them to change this cultural export into an economic powerhouse?
Very simple. I think, like I said, they need to come together. They need to collaborate and look for other ways of doing it. I like what Afro Nation is doing. I like what Life Nation and all they are doing, collaborating, promoting African music. I think they need to do more. And thank God, December is around the corner. I hope they listen and we have more shows. The economy can start, the money can circulate within the economy, and the artists can make more money too. Because the artists make money, they need to make money. And by the way, they are any little from Spotify.
Oh.
Artists are any little from Spotify. They are any little from Spotify. They are complaining. If you speak with Nigerian artists, they will tell you they are complaining. They can't say it out. They are complaining. They are not any much. So the only way they can earn more is through performance. And ask yourself, how many of them are getting endorsements? When last did you hear a Nigerian artist getting an endorsement? When last? How many of them are getting it? Maybe one or two. So they need to perform. They need to eat. They need to feed their family. So the government has a lot to do. The private sector has a lot to do. The private individual has a lot to do. So I think it's a concerted effort. So if they can come together, things might get better.
Well, so if you were to pick another African artist that you say, oh, after Angelique Kidjo, this is the person that I think would deserve a star, who would you pick?
Burna Boy.
Okay. I knew you were going to go there. But out of the big three, I'd like to say...
I think no one has preached that Pan-Africanism than Burna Boy right now. Through his music, not through his action, by the way. His action sometimes might be off, but through his music. So.
Emmanuel, I agree with you. You are a true journalist. I love that selection, and I believe in you now more than yesterday. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for having this conversation with us. It was truly very interesting. Thank you very much. We do hope that Burna Boy, you and I, hope that Burna Boy gets that star. And maybe we'll be there to represent the rest of Africa when he opens that panel. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining and having this.
Thank you. It was nice hanging out with you.
And you too.
Awesome. But of course, as African music continues to gain global influence, the bigger conversation is about ownership, investment, and ensuring that Africa captures lasting value from the culture it exports. Now let's go on a very short break. When we return, we have another conversation. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's dive into Focus Africa. Today marks the International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its Abolition, a day that calls attention to the history of the transatlantic slave trade and the struggle that led to its abolition. But centuries after the formal abolition of slavery, exploitation has not disappeared. It has evolved.
Across Africa, people continue to face forced labor, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Child labor is also one of those. Other forms of coercion also exist. For many victims, poverty, unemployment, conflict, and the promise of a better life can become pathways into exploitation. So joining us to examine these pathways, these realities behind these forms of modern-day slavery are Dr. Ambrose Ibokwe, his public affairs analyst, and we're also expecting Omotola of Fawomi. She'll be joining us. She's the Executive Director, Rebirth Hub, Africa. She's been involved in the rescue of more than 6,500 victims of trafficking across 17 countries since 2019. So let's talk to Dr. Ibokwe. Doctor, you're welcome, sir. Good to have you here having this conversation with us. Doctor, first of all, let's separate what trafficking is from illegal immigration. Can you make that distinction for us before we start? Trafficking versus illegal immigration.
First off, I want to say my name is Dr. Ibokwe, not Ibokwe. I don't have W in my name.
Noted, sir. My apologies.
But then I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Okay. I said if you can make that distinction for us between trafficking and illegal immigration or illegal migration.
Okay, it's just like you telling me that let me make a decision between the 6 and half a dozen. They are basically tied together. It is very clear, just as you mentioned in your introduction, that slavery has just assumed, a different proportion and dimension as we enter different centuries. What is slavery? Slavery basically underscores the fact that somebody without his own or her own volition, is forced into servitude in very harsh conditions, mostly against his or her will. And in the olden days, it was a physical, invasion of communities by, stronger, communities, especially in African settings, even in Europe, everywhere all over the world. Slavery was an instrument of use for conquering people. So when communities go to war, they take people as slaves to be entrusted into servitude in their own land. Then later, Europe started raiding African countries to work, and America to work in their plantations. That was where it became an international trade. Over the centuries, we have been able to establish slavery in terms of labor slavery. Currently, as you said, we have also entered illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between slavery and illegal immigration in its entirety is that illegal immigration is a voluntary slavery, while the other slavery is enforced slavery. As I mentioned earlier, in slavery, you are raided, you are taken out in forceful condition against your own volition into servitude. But illegal immigration is that you volunteered, you left. It is a personal decision that you want to be enslaved. You want to live in a condition where you're a second-class citizen. You want to live in a condition where, because of the economic hardship in your place, you want something better, a better life. So you go into a country without proper documentation, you hide, you do all kinds of cheap labor, you sleep in very terrible conditions. You are not to be seen. You cannot be seen or you cannot be heard in the community. You move like a ghost. And that is illegal slavery. And anytime you are caught, you are deported. So that is the basic distinction between these two.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Well, Dr. Igboke, why do you think these forms of exploitation continue to thrive, of course, particularly in communities affected by poverty, unemployment, conflict, and limited opportunities?
Let me clearly say and state it categorically that my study of human history suggests the fact that societies, no matter how modern is still living in jungle justice. Societies are still built around our animalistic tendencies, even though we have higher intellectual capacity, but it has not removed the bestiality in humanity. Therefore, when I watch animal channels, and see the way animals will leave their children have been attacked by stronger animals like the lions and tigers, oppressing lower animals in strength like kangaroos and the rest, you get into the fact that human society is the same way. It is survival for the strongest, what they say that for the fittest. So you see the biggest countries organizing themselves into cartels to ensure that the lower countries are being manipulated and subjugated. So they develop advanced weapons to make sure that the other countries don't have that kind of advanced weapons, and make sure that they use the weapon to threaten smaller countries into submission. So it has been a kind of, and because of that, there have been poverty, weaponized poverty across African countries. And let us remember that in 1885, in a Berlin, in Germany, the European superpowers sat down around a table in what they call the Berlin Conference. And because they were fighting each other about cutting a slice of Africa, taking over African kingdoms, they came together and said, look, we don't want to fight ourselves anymore. Let us carve out this African continent and divide it among ourselves. So they started dividing. Britain, take Nigeria, take Ghana, take Gambia, take here. Oh, France, you can take Benin Republic, you can take Senegal, you can take this place. And that is how they divided these African kingdoms. Give them a name, a false name that doesn't belong to them. And unfortunately, most of us are still answering the names they gave to us, including Nigeria. And that was what that slavery started. So over the years, even independence they gave to African country were independence in official capacity, but the control of Africa was still there. And that is why Africa, with all its resources, cannot, prosper. And poverty was, has been entrenched in the land. And because of that, they know that people become poor, will seek a succor later. And that is why Africans have continued to seek succor in Europe, because the material resources that used to develop Europe are still being tapped. Most of our resources are still being exported in raw material form. They go there, do additional value addition, and bring it back as a finished products. The same thing, even our fuel, which is the most basic of our natural resources that we are selling, we cannot even refine it locally. So that has entrenched poverty. And because of this poverty, our people keep on going there for what they call the greener pasture. Before, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, we used to go there for what we call the golden fleece. That is to get certificate. But now we are going there even for basic livelihoods. And that's what has continued to make people go over there. And we have been there as we are just modern slaves. This time around, we are not in chains physically, but we're in chains mentally, we're in chains economically, and we're having chains psychologically and culturally.
Okay. Dr. Iboke, please, first of all, Queen, if you please introduce our next guest. We have our next guest just join us now.
Yes, we have Motola Faumi, who's going to join us and tell us about how she has helped rescue victims. Motola, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome.
From your experience rescuing victims across different countries, what does modern-day slavery actually look like in practice? What are some of the forms of exploitation that you've encountered most frequently?
Thank you very much. That's a great question. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Modern slavery looks like a job offer. It looks like a job opportunity. It looks like an opportunity to travel. Many times, the person who tells you about this opportunity is someone you trust, a community member, a trusted member of clergy, a family member you revere. So many times, a lot of the victims that we've assisted to return safely have heard that information about the job opportunity in the various countries that they were told about from people they trusted, from people they didn't have any reason to doubt. So I'll give you an example. So one of our very first rescue victims was told by one of her clergies that there was a job opportunity back then in Dubai to be able to teach English. She was a graduate of English language from the University of Ibadan. And she was going to be teaching, she was going to serve as an English tutor in Dubai, teaching someone. I mean, that was the job opportunity. She left Nigeria through an agent. Arriving in Dubai, then she was told, you're not going to Dubai, you're actually going to Oman. Arriving in Oman, she arrived with 50 other girls who apparently were also recruited by the same agency. And a lot of these people were taken to the agency, their passports taken. Some of them had their hair shaved, and then they were distributed to the people who had paid for them. So their families, I'll call them like slave merchants, who had made payments of $10,000, $15,000 to this agency, and these girls were deployed to them. Now, when she was leaving Nigeria, she did not know, and she arrived in Oman. Turns out this was she was going to work in as a domestic slave, paid $200 a month, working 18 hours a day. So many times it looks like a job opportunity. It looks like an opportunity for economic advancement.
Omotola, I'd like to come in here and talk about the cultural whiplash to the submission that you've just given here, because I've heard this story before. The only difference inside of the one I heard from what it is that you've just told is that there was no cross or international travel involved. And where I'm coming to is that we actually have entrenched cultures that actually sound like slavery, like what you've just explained, like aunties coming over to the village and saying, give me a child, I'll take her to the urban area and I'll make a life for her, only for them to come to these urban areas and then they're, well, put to work. So I wanted to create that distinction that slavery doesn't just happen outside of Nigeria, and also to identify the fact that certain cultures that we have can actually be termed as such. Am I correct or am I wrong?
You're very correct. You're very correct. Even though the ones we have dealt with have been international, you're very correct to make that, for that observation. And we have a lot of modern slavery going on in country in addition to the ones happening outside the country. And many times the ones going on in the country, because it looks like, oh, it's communal help, because it looks like, just like you mentioned, an aunt is helping a niece from the village, and she's putting her to long hours of work, and nobody is monitoring, nobody is supervising, there is no agency that is regulating even the use of helps or caregivers. So that's a very important conversation that we are not having that is also connected to modern slavery.
All right, let's hear about some of the efforts that you have. Dr. Igboke, we're still coming to you, apologies, but wanted to milk some of the information here from Omotola. Omotola, let's talk about some of the instances that you've experienced here and how they were repatriated back to the country. When they do come back, what kind of help do they get? What kind of agencies do they meet with? And what is the frequency of people wanting to return to these circumstances or instances that they put themselves inside? What leads them to even want to return?
So, but thank you. That's a great question. Every time we get, most of the victims that we assist to return, many of them contact us through social media because that's where we also put a word out. And a lot of the information comes through networks of other people who have been rescued. They want to share our numbers, share our contacts. So if a victim contacts us, we put the person in touch with a case manager who is on our team. And that case manager works with the victim to find out a lot of information. Where, when they do depart, we have almost 36 questions we have them to answer. And with that information, we can identify their location. We've worked in almost 17 countries. And over time, you see certain consistencies. In some countries, let me say like the Middle East countries where we have had the largest number of people return, there are certain cultural practices that support slavery. There's also, I would say, like bilateral labor agreements that also support the kind of treatments that the victims get when they're taken. But what does rescue look like? Rescue looks like a victim getting in contact with us. That's the rescue. We have 4 stages: rescue, return, rehabilitation, and reintegration. So rescue is contacting us, and we're working through the various ways to get them back home. That could involve working. We have various groups that we work with on ground, that we partner with on ground. So, for example, in a country like Lebanon, we work with Syria, several, and we work with victims partners on ground to be able to help our victims, at least to get from where they are being enslaved, at least to a halfway home. So from the halfway home, we help work with, if they have medical issues, we work with Médecins Sans Frontières. If we have, resources, maybe they need clothing, they need shelter, we partner with Catholic charities. We have a lot of organizations that we partner with. And in that period, we're trying to help them work with the embassy to get, because they do not have a passport, we're trying to help them get emergency travel documents, emergency travel certificate to be able to return to the country. Upon their return, we have people who receive them, conduct trauma care for them, because a lot of them have been victims, depending whether it is domestic slavery or sex slavery, they require different treatments. Once they return, we connect them to organizations like the International Organization of Migration that provides wraparound services for victims who return. And over time, over a year or two, you find a lot of victims relatively stabilized. Of course, in between, we have some people who come back, who don't want to go back to their parents or anyone. And if they don't get the support, economic support that they require, we find out 2-3 months down the line, they are back in Cote d'Ivoire doing the same thing.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Omotola, for that. Dr. Igboke, I wanted to ask, where is the line between terrible working conditions and forced labor?
The same thing, as far as I know. Most people who are working under terrible labor conditions don't have a choice. Unfortunately, inside Nigeria, a lot of this forced labor are taking place, or terrible working conditions. If you go to the industrial estates in Lagos or in Ogun State, you see a lot of national, especially the Chinese and the Lebanese, treating our people with all sorts of human degrading conditions. When you go to the industrial estates, you see our people working without protective equipment, without PPEs. working with, harsh chemicals, without protection, without masks, without anything. Then earning peanuts, living in shackles, in the name of accommodation. Yet our Labour Congress does nothing. We only talk about minimum wage. We don't even talk about the working conditions of those people. So there is slavery of Nigerians inside Nigeria. As you have said, culturally, some slaves are even allowed because in some cultures, there's what you call slaves. It's in every culture, in Igbo land, in Yoruba land, in the north, among the Hausas and Fulanis, everywhere. So there is that cultures that have not finally gone. In fact, there are some families that are designated slave lines, that they call them slave progenitors and progenies, all over the time. And there's even the caste, remember the caste system in some other parts of the country too. So these are the things we are fighting, that some people have been designated slaves all their life. So there have been slavery traditionally, culturally, and also there have been transatlantic slave that happened before, and the ones that are happening now. Just like I said before, most of the time, the underlying elements that make slavery possible is poverty, economic hardship, recessions, and culture. So this case system, now we have replaced the old case system with class system, economic class. So we talk of, in the north, you hear of the talakawas, people who are supposed to serve the rich, the feudal lords. And the same thing also when it comes to other parts of the country. So it is a concept that has remained with humanity. And unfortunately, it's a concept that continues. But again, when we talk about the agencies like NAPTIP, I don't know how equipped they are actually to do this work, because they seem to be suffering like what other agencies of government suffer, paucity of funds, and they are restricted from doing a lot of jobs. Oftentimes, we drive in the streets of Nigeria, we see underage school children who are supposed to be in school hawking. That is another slavery, that's another form of slavery.
Indeed.
We have seen social media videos where an aunt or whoever, an uncle, keeps flogging a child who supposedly stays with him or her, and almost beating the child with all kinds of inhuman instruments, and lacerating the body of the child and giving all kinds of wounds. Yet we say it doesn't belong. So these are the things that constitute it. We need enforcement against those who committed slavery, and then we also need to improve economically to stem the tide of those who are even willing to go into slavery. But when you talk about prostitution and the rest, guys want even to go out of this country because there's nothing for this country. Boys want to leave because there's nothing. Professionals want to leave because there's nothing for them. How do we make our economy strong enough to make people want to stay back?
So to see these induced forms of slavery are actually a symptom of something much bigger, a bigger disease, and that's the conditions here in Nigeria. Dr. Ambrose Iboke, I want to say thank you very much, public affairs analyst, and of course, the executive director, Rebirth Hub Africa, Omotola Faomi. Wait a minute. I know you. You're the same person from 15 years ago, customer care. Good to reconnect with you. And Grant, thank you very much for joining us here and having this conversation, Doctor, and of course, Omotola. We're having a conversation after. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, as we remember the millions affected by the transatlantic slave trade and celebrate its abolition, today's conversation is also a reminder that the fight against exploitation is far from over. From trafficking and also forced labor to domestic servitude and sexual exploitation, modern-day slavery continues to affect lives across Africa and beyond. Thank you very much for joining us for that conversation and all the rest from before. This is the end of our show here for the weekend. I want to say thank you for starting the week with us. But as we leave, we please beckon on you to stay through the day and also join us in the morning, where the trio of Who and Who?
Olive, Joe, and Linga.
Yes, they'll be joining you for breakfast through the week. So join them then. For now, though, we say our goodbyes. It's been one long weekend for Queen. We have to take her home now because it's been quite a while. But we started the show very interestingly, and we're going to end it same way. Here is our takeout for you this weekend.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.